Ramana Maharshi used to advise his disciples to deeply contemplate the question, "Who am I?" as their spiritual practice. And he said that this spiritual practice alone would be enough to cultivate all the spiritual qualities within a person. This seems to be a very different approach compared to yours, which seems to be more focused on addressing each individual fear and getting rid of it, with a focused being level intent to outgrow it. What is your view on Ramana Maharshi's recommended spiritual practice? Ramana's advice seems to correspond with what happened to Eckhart Tolle. During that night, he started contemplating his sense of self, after which he transformed overnight, without seemingly needing to cultivate each spiritual quality individually or outgrow each fear individually.
Okay. Well, I think that technique is probably valuable for some people. Again, the people that it's mostly valuable for are very right brain people. The people who are left brain and logically focused probably after the first hour of saying who am I would be ready to quit. They would have enough of that because their intellect would be trying to answer that question. And of course, that's not a question for the intellect. It's a question for the being level, not the intellect. But the intellect would always jump in front and want to take charge. I can answer that question. I'm so and so's son. I'm a carpenter. I'm this. I'm that. I'm a human being. I'm a whatever. I'm a piece of consciousness operating an avatar. The the intellect would want to name it, and of course that won't help at all. That does not help the exercise. That's not what the exercise is about. It's not about how many different ways can you explain who you are. The idea is to get the who am I, to get you to delve into I am consciousness, or I guess in religious terms, I am a soul, that sort of thing. And what does that mean? And what's the significance of that? You see, that's what the the Ramana is wanting people to do. They're wanting people to do that and find that trigger and then go from there. Okay. Well, that'll work for some, others not at all. Again, there's a difference between left brain, right brain, between people who are more intuitive and people who are more intellectual or logical. So for the people who are very intuitive and very right brain, they may find that to be a very useful tool. Now, if you're left brain, you'll probably struggle with it for a long time, but you can eventually develop your intuitive side enough that it could be a good tool for you. So it's not that it can't work for left brainers, they'll just struggle with it longer before it'll begin to work. But basically, yeah, there is a connection to him and Eckhart Tolle in the sense that they want you to consider who are you? I'm not I'm not this body. I'm not the person that is married to so and so and works at such a place. I'm more than that. Okay, you can accept that. Well, okay, I am that, but I'm also more than that. And then you have to keep delving into what does this more than that mean? And what is that? And then eventually you'll realize that this the more than that part is really the core that's most important. All the rest of it is not the real essence of who you are. It's the soul, it's the free will awareness unit, if you if you like, or the individuated unit of consciousness. That's the key player. That's who you really are. Meanwhile, you are here engaged in this virtual reality game called life in order to make choices, in order to grow up. So you can have that viewpoint, and that will get you part of the way. At least it gets you started. But I don't know that the average person may not go much farther than to get started with that. So they will get that the spiritual side of them is a very important, if not the most important, and the fundamental side of them. And the rest of it just reflects that. How you are at the office just reflects your quality. How you are in your relationship with your family just reflects your quality. So what's really fundamental is your quality, not the reflection of your quality into all these other things. So when you get to that point, then some people would go, okay, I get it. Now what? And which means they wouldn't get very far. Other people would get to that point and say, well, I need to spend a whole lot less time on the trappings, on the physical things, and more time on developing that part of me that is most important. And then they'd start to work on it. So the working on it is not going to really happen so much for just saying, who am I? Who am I is the thing that will get you started. If it's something that your your natural way that you are, like left brain or right brain, doesn't get in the way too much, it's a good start. Get somebody to consider themselves primarily as consciousness, and that the evolution of their consciousness is the fundamental reason they're here. And they need to take that seriously, because their expression of that consciousness quality is what they're seeing everywhere else. And if they express a higher quality of consciousness because they have a higher quality of consciousness, their life in the physical will all be great. All those relationships, all those connections, all of that will work out just really, really well for them. They don't have to say, well, how do I plan being a better husband? How do I plan being a better father? How do I plan being a better friend? All that'll just happen. If you get that spiritual part of you right, then the better friend, the better parent, the better husband or wife, that'll all just happen by itself. So that's obvious that the place to put your time is at the spiritual part of you. That's the core that makes everything else work better. Instead of forgetting about the spiritual part and focus on being a good husband and friend and father, well, that's sort of like chasing your tail. You put a lot of effort into it, but it generally never goes too far because you're not changing your quality. And without a change in quality, you can't really change the expression of your quality. You go through the motions. All right, I'm going to buy my wife some flowers, every Friday. Well, you do that for a couple of months, and then you skip one, and then you skip two, and then pretty soon you're not doing it anymore. So all of the things you plan from your intellect don't work all that well because you're acting. You're not doing it from the being level. You're not doing it for the right reasons. You're trying to act like a better husband or a better father or a better friend. So that's the difference. So yes, it's a good way to get somebody started, perhaps, just to get them to see that who they are is that spiritual part of them, and that's the part that runs everything else. So if you get that better, all your life is going to be better. So put your energy into doing that. And putting your energy into acting is a false investment. It doesn't really pay off. It pays off in the short run, but you can't keep that acting up forever. It slowly just dissipates and goes away, and you return to just who you are. So that's the lesson he's getting at. But that's just the first step. Step one is to realize your consciousness, and that all the rest of your life is a reflection of that consciousness. So, but actually growing up, takes more work than that. That realization is the beginning. That's like the realization that Tully had when he said, oh, I can be that other person. I don't have to be this miserable one. There's potential for me to be something else. That something else is what I really am. I'm going to develop that. Well, okay, he found that. Who am I? I'm not the, I don't want to be like that person. I don't want to be me. I'm not the me. I'm the person that's doesn't want to be me. Okay, so he got to that point, but then there was a lot of other work he had to do. Like we say, he had to spend months healing himself. He had to spend months considering all the ramifications of what really was going on with. He had to own it, and you don't own it if you don't put time in thinking about it and living it. So that's the thing. So I'd say that Ramana it's a good start, but it's only a start. After that, you got to have a lot of work that you put into it. I and MBT Events hope you liked this video. We now have well over 1,000 hours of free video on this YouTube channel. Though these videos are free to our viewers, they represent many thousands of hours in production and editing, and many thousands of dollars invested in video and audio equipment, along with the required computers and software to store and process the raw video into finished products. So far, all of this content has been funded directly out of our own pockets. Be assured, we will always continue to produce free content. It is our life, our purpose, a labor of love that we will continue to pursue as best we can. However, those pockets are not as deep as they used to be. Thus, we are now seeking to augment our resources with support from our viewers. If you find something of significant value in our videos, please consider supporting their production through our Patreon account or through a one-time donation. It would be very much appreciated. The links are in the description below. Thank you.